The tea is exceptionally good today. Who made this? Very delicious. Hold on.
Hey, my cosmic cousins. Are y'all ready for this final exam? That's right. Saturn is going direct in Pisces on November 28th, 2025. And this marks the final chapter of Saturn in Pisces before it leaves for Aries permanently. Now, this is 29 years in the making, okay? And you could definitely look at this as a karmic graduation. And you know I got all the tea on how to pass this final exam with flying colors. But before I get too deep into it, you know the drill. Go ahead and hit that like. Go ahead and subscribe to your girl if you haven't already. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of this cosmic tea that I want to sip with you. Now let's get into it. Now, this energy is definitely given. Big Daddy Saturn has come in to check our homework. And this is before you can move on to that new cycle. Now, this energy is very heavy. However, it's very constructive, though. And it feels like a fog is lifting, revealing exactly what is real and what is an illusion. Now, up until this point, and probably since July, you've probably been feeling like you've been swimming through concrete. So the good news about Saturn going direct is that feeling is going to be lifted, okay? Now, Saturn, of course, is the planet of karma, reality, and adulting. Now, when it finally stations direct, it will be at the 25th degree of Pisces. Now, earlier this year, I want to say it was probably back in May, Saturn did dip his toe in Aries for a little bit, just to, fill it out. But it did come back to Pisces to make sure that we didn't miss anything. Now, from now until February 2026, we are closing out a massive 30-year karmic cycle, like I said before. The fog is definitely lifted and the delusion is definitely over. It's time to see things exactly as they are. And let's talk about the energy and what that means for all of us, okay? Saturn is definitely telling us it's time to move on and to please take our emotional baggage with us out the door. Okay? So we have until February to wrap up our spirit lessons in the spiritual area. The energy of Pisces is spirit, so it's almost like a soul lesson or soul obligations that we're having to wrap up. Baby, this is old school karma. Some of this karma is stuff that we have generated, but others with that Pisces energy definitely deals with the ancestral karma as well. Now, once Saturn goes direct in Pisces, it will start to feel like the pre-shadow phase for that Aries energy. And that Pisces energy definitely gives manifestation energy. So it's almost like a golden window of opportunity for us to definitely wrap up those lessons. Now, here are some of the things that we may need to take some of our rose-colored glasses off for when it comes to relationships, when it comes to our jobs, when it comes to creative projects. We have to look at everything for what it is and not for what we want it to be. It is actually a soul requirement at this point, okay? Now, because it's wrapping up a karmic cycle, we don't really have a lot of choices on how this is going to turn out. Saturn deals with those lessons that we can only control if we play our cards right. If we are doing the work and we're doing what we need to do, Saturn will play well with us. However, if there was some work or some stuff that was still on the table, Saturn is going to dissolve that rapidly. And because of that Pisces energy, it's going to snatch that fantasy energy right on up out of there. Now, while Saturn was in retrograde, our boundaries might have been a little wavering. Okay, we might have been a little bit playing into a little bit more victim energy regarding our circumstances. Okay, but once Saturn goes direct, it's going to give us that surge of strength. That word no is going to be incredibly powerful, especially when it comes to those emotional vampires and those situations that definitely drain your spirit. One of the biggest lessons that energy has taught us is that we can love a person, but sometimes we can love them from afar. We can't save everybody. Our focus has to be on saving ourselves. And having healthy boundaries is a must. Now, this energy is going to be so potent. So I really hope that y'all really use this energy. Saturn is the builder and Pisces is the dreamer. This is definitely going to be the best energy for artists, healers, and creators. This energy definitely should be utilized, especially during this time when everybody's security is feeling a little bumpy and not really feeling all that stable. This energy is definitely giving launching energy. This is no longer a time for brainstorming. This is about the business plan, the structure, the discipline required to make that art profitable. So we definitely are not talking about just visualizing it. We're talking about building it and making it completely foundational. Now, in addition, this is also going to be a time for emotional sobriety. Pisces energy can be the escapist. Now, when you're talking about escapist, we could be talking about addiction or just checking out overall. You could even be talking about doom scrolling online. You know how you be just sitting there scrolling, and next thing you know, an hour or two done passed? Yeah. Well, Saturn said enough of that shit, okay? Saturn demands sobriety, not just from substances, but from emotional addictions as well. This is definitely going to be a call to stop numbing out and face the feelings that we've been avoiding since July. Now, most importantly, Saturn deals with the systems. And we're talking about our government, our banking systems, and our overall community structures. Now, when you combine these two energies, especially when it comes to our banking, like when we're talking about banking, we have that energy with Saturn. And when we're talking about Pisces, we're dealing with virtual. So if you put that together, you got virtual banking or digital currency or crypto. Now, this is going to be heavy around this time. There's going to be an emphasis on this just because we're also dealing with the Uranus retrograde that has slid back into Taurus. And of course, Taurus deals with our money and our finances. And Uranus deals with our future, digital, different things like that. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if sometime in December, our government finally places some type of heavy concrete regulation on cryptocurrency or AI. So it's starting to look like the wild, wild west days of cryptocurrency is starting to wrap up and will be over soon. And we will likely see a formal structure of the central bank digital currencies being pushed as the safe alternative to the chaos of the crypto market. Please hear me when I say Saturn wants to put a fence around that cloud, okay? And it's definitely determined to put rules and regulations and structures wherever it goes, okay? Now, also during this time, we might be dealing with somewhat of a crisis dealing with our water. Now, of course, Pisces deals with the water. It is a water sign. And Pisces rules over the ocean. It rules over liquids. And it also rules over pharmaceuticals. Now, Saturn rules over the law. So we should probably watch for major news regarding our pharmaceutical industry. There will likely be class action lawsuits around this time or a new strict set of regulations regarding addiction treatments. We will probably see that as well. Now, in addition, our physical relationship with water is changing as well. We may see certain bills that are specifically targeting dams, bridges over water, or some laws or new taxes dealing with water. Just something around that. In addition, dealing with water, this might be a time where we might hear stuff about floods. Flooding is definitely the Earth's way of cleansing itself, and she definitely wants to wrap up her karmic cycle as well. Okay. Now, one of the most beautiful things about the Saturn and Pisces energy is the compassionate safety net. Now, this has been a time where it kind of has restored our hope in humanity and in one another. Saturn has definitely taught us that we are responsible for our weakest among us, okay? Now, this may definitely be a time where we may see beginning of a new structure for social safety net, specifically regarding mental health and housing for the homeless. There's definitely a collective realization that we cannot have a stable society if we ignore the suffering of the unseen. And this is definitely when it comes to the homeless. And also when it comes to any addicts out there. Like, expect compassionate legislation to be like a buzzword around that time. Like, that's really going to be a big thing. Now, something else that this energy is bringing in very much is it's flooding out our corporate structure. It is causing our social and corporate structure to dissolve. Now, that means that rigid 9 to 5 office model is struggling to survive in this transit. It is. The new system that we're moving into is not about the time spent at a desk, okay? That is given very much Saturn energy. It is about creative output. We already know that there have been mad layoffs. Like, there's been so many layoffs and so many people have lost their jobs in this 2025 year. And it has definitely been hard on a lot of people. I just have to say, though, the universe is definitely doing what it is supposed to do. This old system that we were dealing with had ran its course, and now it's time for it to dissolve. So it is going to be very important for us right now to really rely on our creativity, our individuality, and really not be scared to bank on ourselves. When Saturn goes into Aries, it's going to be very stressed about self-discipline. Also taking the initiative and not being afraid to take action. Saturn is going to be teaching this hard lesson to all of us, okay? So we have this window before February to really decide what we really want to do and what that looks like for us. And we can be very creative about it and really take it to whatever our wildest dreams are. Now, this is just simply what it is. And companies that try to force or return to that rigid old school office culture will likely face a massive exodus of talent during this direct station, okay? AKA, they're going to have a hard time surviving in this new current, okay? It literally is about finding that middle ground. Now, of course, Cosmic Cousins, I'm going to give y'all the tea on where this reality check is hitting you in your chart specifically, okay? And we're going to base this off of rising signs per usual. Starting with Aries risings. Now, this is actually happening in your 12th house. Now, this is your spiritual deep detox. The last few months have forced you to look at your subconscious fears and your self-sabotaging habits. Now, with Saturn direct, it's time for you to finally let go of that bad habit or that past resentment. You are clearing the decks because in February, Saturn enters your sign for the total rebirth, okay? Now, Aries risings, it is very imperative that you give yourself some time of solitude, and it's time to finish those projects that you've been hiding from the world now. Moving on to my Taurus risings. Now, this falls in your 11th house of community and networks. Now, you are finding out who your real friends are. The party is definitely over, and you are looking around to see who is actually standing by your side, okay? Now, when Saturn goes direct in the 11th house for you, Taurus risings, it is giving you the courage to leave those groups or those circles of friends. Now, these are the people who do not align with your future goals. It's time to network with a purpose. Quality over quantity is your new motto. And Saturn is definitely going to hold you to that, okay? Now, for my Gemini risings, this is your 10th house of your career and reputation. Now, the pressure is definitely on, Gemini. You've been questioning your path, but now it's time to step into your authority. Stop trying and start being the boss. Now, if you've been putting in the work and working hard, expect that recognition and that solidification status to start happening right now. You're going to start feeling the reward of all of that hard work. Now, if you've been cutting corners, Saturn's going to expose that, okay? And it's time to take the lead. Stop playing yourself in the background and stop hiding and dimming your light, okay? Now, for my Cancer risings, this actually falls in your 9th house of beliefs and expansions. Now, your worldview is solidifying. Maybe you're finishing your degree or dealing with legal matters or finally committing to a spiritual path. And this retrograde definitely made you question your belief systems as well as your spiritual path, as well as those big commitments. Now, Saturn direct, it's going to give you a live by it type of energy. If you're in publishing or education, this is the green light for you to finalize your work. Go ahead and put it out, Cancer risings, okay? Now, for my Leo risings, this is deep because this is in your 8th house of shared resources and intimacy. Now, you know that 8th house goes all the way into the intimacy and depth, deep waters of it all, okay? Now, it's time for you to get real about your debt and your trust. Some of you also might be dealing with some tax issues. It's time to get that taken care of, okay? Now, if you have been waiting on a settlement, a loan, a divorce agreement, things will start moving now. Emotionally, you will be setting boundaries around who has access to your energy, and you are learning that you can love people without saving them. That's going to be a big lesson for you, Leo risings. Now, for my Virgo risings, this actually falls in your 7th house of relationships. Now, it's really given commitment or quit energy. Now, if you are in a partnership, and this is whether it is romantic or business, but it has been shaky, the reality check is here. You are either solidifying the bond for the long haul or you are walking away altogether, okay? There is absolutely no gray area anymore. You're going to know exactly what it is. Look at that person in front of you. Do they support your structure or do you need to dissolve it? It's simple as that. Now, when it comes to my Libra risings, now this falls in your 6th house of health and routine. This retrograde might have you feeling like burnout, or you might need to do a health check-in with yourself. Now, Saturn definitely wants you to find some glory in the grind that you do, your day-to-day, and fix your sleep schedule. Organize your workspace and commit to the boring, healthy routines that you know you've been needing to do. If you don't schedule your rest, your body will do it for you. It's as simple as that. Now, I told you Saturn is strict. It don't hear about what you want to do. It only does what it's supposed to do, okay? Now, moving on to my Scorpio risings, this actually falls in your 5th house of creativity, romance, and kids. Now, Saturn is asking you to take your joy seriously. It's also telling you to express yourself the way that you are supposed to. If you are an artist, you need to start treating your art like a job. Self-discipline has become your new muse, okay? Now, if you are dating, you're done with the casual flings. You want something that's long-term and that is concrete. Now, this is also going to be a time where you see some heavy responsibility regarding your children. Now, that might be solidified. Also, a heavy emphasis on your inner child as well. Now, when it comes to my Sagittarius risings, this actually falls in your 4th house of home and family. Now, you are building your foundation. You might be finalizing a move, dealing with property repairs, or setting a firm boundary with a parent. That retrograde definitely stirred up the past for you. So when Saturn goes direct, it definitely wants you to put it to rest so you can feel safe in your own home. Fix the roof, literally and metaphorically, okay? Now, up next, of course, I have my Capricorn risings. This actually falls in your 3rd house of communication and local community. Now, Saturn is your ruler. So any transits in Saturn, you definitely feel it like no other, okay? But this time around, it's time for you to start speaking with your authority. Now, if you've been working on your writing project, a podcast, or a course, it's time to launch it or finish it. Watch your words as well. They carry heavy weight right now, so you want to make sure that you be careful with that. Say what you mean and mean what you say, okay? Now, for my Aquarius risings, this falls in your 2nd house of money and values. Now, it's time for your financial reality check. The fund spending is paused. This is about building long-term security. Now, Saturn direct helps you stick to the budget, and it's also asking you to define your worth. And we're talking professionally as well as building your self-esteem. This energy is not attached to any material things, but you're still getting your bank account in order. Now, as long as you're doing the work and being responsible with your finances, this should be definitely a piece of cake for you. Trust me, you want that reward that Saturn going to give you, baby, okay? Now, lastly, I have my Pisces risings. Of course, this is falling in your 1st house of self. Now, you are the main character during this transit, and you have been for a few years now. Now, you are graduating. It's your graduation day. Now, the last 2 years have been about maturing, aging, and taking responsibility for your life. Now, as Saturn goes direct, you are definitely shedding that old skin. You standing up straight. You are on your own authority. You are stronger, wiser, and definitely more defined than you were 2 years ago, okay? Now, y'all already know I have my journal prompts and my affirmations, so let's go ahead and get them pens and pads and let's get straight into it, okay? Now, going into the journal prompts, my first prompt deals with the collective illusion. What collective delusion or fantasy did the retrograde period reveal as unsubstantial or untrue? And how can we commit to not repeating that? Now, prompt number 2 deals with our emotional debt. What is the collective unpaid emotional debt that needs to be addressed and structured into formal healing processes before we can move forward? And when you think about this question, I want you to think about grief. I want you to think about drama or any type of unspoken injustice when thinking about this, okay? Now, my last and final prompt deals with dream manifestation. What shared spiritual, artistic, or compassionate vision do we want to solidify into a tangible reality by February 2026? And what concrete structures are required to build that dream? And we need to think about laws, budgets, and commitments. Now, lastly, Cosmic Cousins, I have my affirmations for this energy. Definitely go ahead and take notes. I always suggest you really take one of the affirmations, one or two that you really feel like hit close to home for you. Write it down somewhere where you can see it and say it out loud daily, like anywhere from 3 to 5 times a day. Now, my first affirmation deals with reality and clarity. We ground our spiritual knowledge into real world actions and measurable results. Now, my second affirmation deals with boundaries and discipline. We are building a world rooted in justice, compassion, and unwavering accountability. Now, my last and final affirmation deals with forgiveness and forward motion. We are graduates of this cycle, and we are ready to build the new system. Now, collectively, we can all definitely say this cycle of Saturn has definitely been a doozy. And we have definitely seen the critical degrees of how our systems and our structures of our systems have really started to break down. Now, new beginnings can sometimes feel a little scary because we don't know what we're walking into. We're going into the dark. But collectively, we are all walking into this energy together. So we're definitely not alone. And as long as we have each other to lean on, there's definitely nothing to fear. Now, Cosmic Cousins, if you enjoyed this video, definitely go ahead and hit that like and go ahead and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the cosmic tea that I have to sip with you.